A lot of us have problems with self-esteem or have had them in the past. But what if you could have the confidence and self-esteem of someone like James Bond? What would your life be like then? Well, let's talk about it. First of all, a lot of people argue that self-esteem doesn't exist, which is a weird position to take, but fine. Let's talk about what self-esteem really is. Well, by definition, it's a person's overall sense of self-worth or personal value. Or in other words, it is your opinion of yourself. That's all it is. And you want your opinion of yourself to be at a healthy level. And we'll talk about some of the horrible things that can happen when your self-esteem is too low. But for now, let's answer this question. Why does James Bond's self-esteem appear to be so high? And how do you get yours to be like his? Well, simply put, he's got a lot going for him. I mean, come on. He's a handsome bachelor who drives a cool car and uses fancy gadgets to fight crime. He's basically Batman, but with taxpayer money. I mean, he's the subject of tons of novels, dozens of movies, and I haven't checked, but there's probably a porn parody out there somewhere. And if there is, it better be called James Bondage, or you're just wasting everyone's time. But more importantly, he's a smooth-talking dude who appears to be good at every single thing he does.
A strange flash. Monsieur Bond wins.
While the rest of us are over here struggling to get our own friends to text us back. Now let me be completely honest with you here. I don't really like James Bond. And it's not just because he's a borderline alcoholic who never would have survived the Me Too movement.
Link, say goodbye to Felix. Man talk.
Now, you know me, I'm kind of a big fanboy. I like Marvel movies and Star Trek, and I even like the old corny Batman series. Holy catastrophe! But I'm not into Bond. And I think trying to have self-esteem like his is ultimately bullshit, and probably not for the reasons you think. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. First, I want to tell you why you absolutely need a healthy self-esteem. Why you even need it? Let me start off by saying this. I think a healthy self-esteem is one of the most important things you can have. Let me repeat that. A healthy self-esteem is one of the most important things you can have. Why is it so important? Well, let me use Venom as an analogy. Venom is, of course, a supervillain and one of Spider-Man's arch nemesises. Nemesi. He's a bad guy. He's more or less an evil batch of Laffy Taffy that comes from outer space and attaches itself to a human host. He also kinda looks like the alien from Alien, but a roll of duct tape. And once it attaches itself, it completely enslaves the host, while also giving them muscles and superpowers and a crazy long tongue that's good for licking postage stamps? The push-up pops. A frozen flagpole. But he's probably gonna get stuck there all day. But guys, picture this. What if this alien parasite were to spread from host to host and kept spreading until it eventually enslaved an entire planet? Well, that actually happens in a few of the Spider-Man comics. And as you can imagine, chaos ensues. So why is a healthy self-esteem one of the most important things you can have? Because just like the Venom parasite, low self-esteem will take over your entire world if you don't keep it in check. What I mean is, your opinion of yourself impacts nearly everything you do. It can affect your relationships, your job performance, your overall satisfaction with life. Does it surprise you that people with lower self-esteem are statistically more likely to experience things like depression and tolerate things like toxic relationships? Let me ask you this. Have you ever had that friend who is awesome, but for some reason only dates jerks who treat them like shit? Well, it's likely that that friend has low self-esteem, and deep down they feel like that's what they deserve. I know it's sad, but our relationship with ourselves provides a template for our relationship with others. So yeah, having low self-esteem is like driving through life with the handbrake on. But what if we could get it up to the level of James Bond? Man, find some better people. One thing you'll notice about Bond is he faces off with a lot of villains. So many villains, in fact, it's hard to remember most of their names.
Who are you?
My name is Pussy Galore.
You guys think that name's on her birth certificate? But while those villains are always trying to kill him, none of them are in the habit of telling him he's a worthless piece of shit. But what if those villains did constantly tell him that? Well, let's look at what happened to the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Hunchback is, of course, the story about this guy, Quasimodo, who has a hunch in his back. Imagine that. And he got this hunch from, I don't know, probably from either looking down at his phone too much or working out those traps, bruh. Now, his sort of adopted dad, Frollo, is a total asshole to him, always tearing him down.
You idiot!
And of course, Quasimodo ends up with a low opinion of himself. I mean, when you're fed a steady diet of insults from someone you care about, their opinion of you inevitably becomes your opinion of you. And suddenly you're in your own head all day just putting yourself down, like those videos where they make Siri roast people.
Ray William Johnson, you think you so great? You think I won't barbecue your ugly ass? You Mumford & Sons reject? You Poe Dameron looking ass bitch, Green Day looking ass bitch, paper towel mascot looking ass bitch, The Weeknd looking ass bitch, Ernie from Sesame Street looking ass bitch, Mia Khalifa looking ass bitch.
I know, that's silly, but you see my point. If the people you care about are constantly tearing you down, either get the hell away from them or sit them down and ask them to stop, because you don't deserve to feel that way. I know, that's not very fun to think about. But the other way to increase your self-esteem is a little more fun. Go and watch drag queens. The second thing you'll notice about Bond is he very much owns who he is.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
Which, yeah, it's easy for a guy like him to accept himself because it doesn't seem like he has a lot of flaws. So most of us see ourselves less like this guy and more like this guy. Well, let me ask you something crazy. What if Quasimodo were a drag queen? And that's not a joke. I'm asking you, what if he spent his weekends in a bad wig and a fluffy boa and referred to himself as the hunch bitch of Notre Dame? I know it's a funny thought, but if you think that there's no way someone like you could ever accept yourself for who you are, then I want you to go and watch drag queens. You will learn so much. Some are big, some are small, some have wide feet, some have long necks, some have beards, some of them even look like that. All right, you go, girl. But it doesn't matter, because a drag queen's motto is always this. No matter how many people judge them, no matter how many people scoff at them, no matter how people may think they look, when it is time to shine, those queens get on that stage and they own it. And they're confident and they're charismatic and it is f***ing beautiful. Believe it or not, that is what healthy self-esteem looks like. Someone who has the balls to do that. Don't laugh at that pun, it was too easy. So if I were your college professor, your homework assignment would be go and watch drag queens perform and see how they own the role they're playing. Best class ever. And you know, if you've been watching this show, you know that in several other episodes, I talk about self-acceptance. But you have to learn to accept yourself for who you are. That doesn't mean you can't improve. It doesn't mean you can't change. It just means that you first have to look in the mirror at yourself and all your flaws and own that shit. Even if you're a goofy virgin with an I just farted face who only has 9 fingers because you lost one when a game of Magic the Gathering got out of hand, then that's who you are. Own that shit. Exactly. Now, I know James Bond doesn't have to go and study drag queens because he's James frickin' Bond, although I admit he'd probably make a pretty great one. And hell, his drag name could be Sean Connery. Now, with that in mind, let me finally tell you exactly why trying to have self-esteem like James Bond is bullshit. You mattered to someone. Guys, here's why I don't really like the James Bond character. Because he is too perfect at nearly everything he does. And that's just not what the human experience is about. People aspire to be like him, to have self-esteem like his. But you don't need to be a suave badass with a cool car to have a healthy self-esteem. And you don't have to be like Bond to get people to like you or to value you. I know, I'm starting to sound like Mr. Rogers. Mr. Ragers? All right, you don't think I can prove what I said? Consider this. Despite all the fuck-ups you've had in your life and whatever flaws you think you have, you still matter greatly to someone. Your friends or your sibling or your wife or your grandma or old Bobby Ninefingers who sits next to you at work. You matter to someone just because you're you. Meaning all you have to do is exist and someone out there thinks you're fucking great. So you don't need to be like James Bond to have a healthy self-esteem. You just need to be the best version of yourself that you can be. Man, I hope this helps. All right, guys, I hope this helps. I love you. I'll see you next Monday. I'm responding to comments on Facebook and Instagram. And if there's a topic you want me to talk about, you can actually leave a comment about it if you want. All right, see you next Monday. You know what? Girl, I'm like a McRib. I'm gonna do what I do no matter what you say. I'm living my life, okay, ooh yay. I guess that every Superman has a doomsday. I'm living my life, okay, ooh yay. I can take a loss, and I can handle rejection. I just wanna have an effect like Rush.